going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the Forgotten Race Review. Today, at the request of Mr. MacLeod, we're cracking open Bestiary 2, we're cracking open the Monster Codex, and we're going to cover the Serpentfolk as a homebrew race right here on the channel for all you people out there who need real crazy overpowered races in your games. I mean, don't we all, right? Of course, yeah. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe if you guys are liking what you're seeing. It helps out a whole bunch. And today, this episode of the Forgotten Race Review was brought to you in part by Joshua Pearson. My friend, I know this video goes out on Monday, but I'm recording it on Friday, and I hope I see you in just a few hours at Doomsday Dawn. Oh, by the by, if you haven't watched us play through the Pathfinder playtest adventure, follow this card right up here. We'll get you directed to it. Now, let's dive in. So who out there likes Conan the Barbarian? Because that's where the Serpentfolk first appear in pop culture. At the time, they were known as Serpentmen or Snakemen, and they did in fact appear in the works of Robert E. Howard as part of the King Kull stories, which were predecessors to Conan the Barbarian. In these stories, Serpentfolk were depicted as a pre-human sapient species of magicians that had dominated the world until Atlantis had arisen and defeated them. They, of course, were assimilated into the first Conan stories, and then through correspondence with Mr. H.P. Lovecraft into the Cthulhu mythos as well. This is cemented by the fact that Lovecraft created a patron deity for the Serpentfolk in the form of Yig, father of serpents, and Yig appears in Bestiary 6. That's something we can fight now. I should know. I used all of the great old ones in a campaign. That was a fun fight. Anyway, Dungeons & Dragons has Serpentfolk, but they're known by other names. The Yuan-Ti, the Sassenach. They appear as a race in Pathfinder 4th edition in and of itself. Of course, since Yuan-Ti is something that was created by Wizards of the Coast, Pathfinder couldn't use it as open game license, so they just simply call their reptilian creatures Serpentfolk. Crack open your copy of the Monster Codex and you'll see that these cold-blooded, wholly evil reptilian creatures forged a long-lasting empire on a foundation of relentless conquest, slavery, and arcane power. The rise of mammalian humanoids, however, eventually gave the Serpentfolk pause, and history tells of the titanic struggles carried out between the Serpentfolk and the greatest of humanity's progeny, the Aslanti. This battle was first waged on the surface of Galerion before it plunged into the depths of the Darklands. At the climax of these wars, an event shook the pillars of the Serpentfolk Empire, and I'm betting that event appears in Serpent Skull, so we're not going to spoil it here. But it drove the race into retreat. Their leaders went into hibernation in deep, dark holds as a strategy for outliving their enemies, but with the passage of generations and truly centuries, the still active Serpentfolk who would guard these strongholds devolved into degenerate brutes who only occasionally gave birth to a highborn example of the race's original greatness. Present day, their true champions slumber in ageless hibernation, waiting for the day when humanity undergoes its own decline so the Serpentfolk can seize power once again. In Pathfinder, your typical advanced Serpentfolk, because well and truly there are two different templates to represent the base Serpentfolk being either advanced or degenerate, stands somewhere between 5 and 7 feet tall. We assume males begin from 6 to 7 feet tall, females being 5 to 6. But they're also pretty slim at around 100 to 140 pounds. Again, we assume females come in probably about 10 pounds lighter on average. The degenerate Serpentfolk, on the other hand, stand between 4 feet and 6 feet tall, so males from 5 to 6 feet, females from 4 to 5, but they weigh as much as 180 to 220 pounds. Again, with females probably coming in just a little lighter. We'll say something like 160 to 200. Serpentfolk are pretty long-lived, and generally speaking, they reach about 500 years of age. But that's assuming they even come of age. Aside from the prevalence of degenerate offspring, most Serpentfolk mate only once or twice during their lifetime. Each mating produces as many as a dozen live births or fertile eggs up to a year later. Live births, of course, now being the majority, although in ancient times egg laying was more common. Man, evolution's weird in Pathfinder. And it takes 50 years for their offspring to reach adulthood. So again, age of adulthood, 50 years, max age. We'll say 450 plus 1 percentage dice worth of years. Yeah, sure, let's shake it up a little bit. Now, I cracked open my copy of the Advanced Race Guide to brew these guys up. We'll count it all up in total as we go here, but some of the things we had to kind of homebrew in terms of RP costs because some things just don't exist in the Advanced Race Guide. Personally, I know I've said it several times, I'll say it one more though, RP costs in a race are kind of, with the exception of like, here's a 100 RP race, it's balanced, let me play it with humans, it'll be great, kinda arbitrary. So take the RP count, which is gonna be kinda high, with a grain of salt. Anywho, a Serpentfolk receives a +4 to its dexterity, a +2 to its intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, or receives a -2 to its strength based on its stats as we see them in Bestiary 2. We're calling that the advanced ability score adjustment at 4 RP. These guys are fast and they're good at magic of all kinds, but they're not exactly the strongest creatures on Galarion, with the exception of the Degenerates. We'll get there in a sec though. They're medium creatures with a base speed of 30 feet, which we pay nothing for, but they are also monstrous humanoids. This means that they breathe, eat, and sleep, and they have dark vision out to 60 feet. We don't normally talk about languages in these videos, but it bears bringing up now that every single Serpentfolk that I've seen in the Monster Codex, as well as the Serpentfolk in Bestiary 2, speaks Common, Aclo, Draconic, and Undercommon just right out the gate, regardless of intelligence score, and in addition is telepathic out to 100 feet. I'm gonna call that like 6 RP to have all those languages before we pick any others. And in addition, they have spell resistance equal to 10 plus their hit dice. It's 2 RP to have SR equal to 6 plus your hit dice, or 3 to have resistance equal to 11 plus your hit dice. So we're gonna go ahead and bump it up by 1. Congratulations, I'm such a nice guy. 3 RP, spell resistance equal to 11 plus their character level. A little different than what you'll see in the book, but hey, +1s are cool. The basic Serpentfolk has a +3 natural armor bonus, meaning he took the natural armor defensive racial trait once and improved it twice, for a grand total of 4 RP, and receives a +4 racial bonus on use magic device checks and a +8 on escape artist. Had to homebrew these as well because they don't appear verbatim in the Advanced Race Guide, based on some other skill adjustments we see there. I'm gonna say the +4 to UMD cost him 5, the +8 to escape artist costs him double at 10. In addition, these guys can cast Blur, Mirror Image, and Suggestion once a day, and can cast Disguise Self and Ventriloquism at will. All of these spells together cost him 7 RP. A couple more things to homebrew we had to do. Serpentfolk are immune to mind-affecting effects, paralysis, and poison. I'm setting that at 10 because there's so many really powerful paralysis and mind-affecting effects in Pathfinder. And they have a bite attack that deals more damage than the Advanced Race Guide will give a race at 1d6 points of damage. We'll say that's worth 3. Serpentfolk have Scent, which costs them 4, and Poison, which I'm putting as 1. That might be a little low, but it'll be fine. I'm sure we're gonna land real high anyway. Their poison is attached to their bite. Its frequency is once a round for 6 rounds, and the effect is 1d2 strength damage, the cure being 2 saves. The DC, of course, as always, is con-based. Now that's everything we've got. Let's do some quick math, break out the calculators, kids. It looks like the Serpentfolk hits the scale at 55 RP. Again, there's a little bit of personal calls I'm making here. This isn't a flat, like, rules as written. This is how strong they are, so saith Paizo. But I don't know, I value things like being immune to Hold Monster and Charm Monster and things of that nature pretty high in Pathfinder, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick with it. Now, if we want to make it even more powerful, let's talk about what's essentially a couple of templates available only to Serpentfolk, the Advanced and Degenerate. Templates, we'll say? Yeah, we can call it templates, because more or less, it's 2 different kinds of Serpentfolks created by changing the numbers around. When an Advanced Serpentfolk reaches 4th level in any class combination, it gains 2 spell-like abilities, usable once per day each, those being Dominate Person and Major Image. When it reaches level 9 in any combination, it gets Mass Suggestion and Teleport, each usable once per day. An Advanced Serpentfolk replaces the normal ability score modifiers we see on a race, the +4 dex, +2 int, whiz cha, with a +10 to its dexterity score, a +6 to its con, a +8 to its intelligence, a +4 to its wisdom, a +6 to its charisma, but a -2 to its strength score. So yeah, no, this guy is super powerful. A Degenerate Serpentfolk receives, again, replacing the +4 dex, +2 int whiz cha, -2 strength that we see, a +10 to its strength score, a +2 to dex, a +8 to con, a -6 to its intelligence with a minimum of 3, a +2 to its wisdom, and a -4 to its charisma. Yeah, okay, these guys are really powerful, but they're also really important to Pathfinder's lore. I personally have only kind of flipped through Serpent Skull, but there's definitely a whole adventure path that seems to be dedicated to these dudes. And in a game where maybe somebody's playing Gestalt characters or somebody's like, hey, can we play half-dragons? And, you know, we talked about the half-dragon template a long time ago on this channel. If you'd like to get caught up, follow this card right up here. We'll tell you all about it. A Serpentfolk might fit in just fine in a Gestalt game or a game with templates because there's a lot of stuff going on with it. Of course, the power creep is a little less creep and a little more leaps and bounds in like a 15-point buy setting, but in a bigger game like that, Serpentfolk seem to fit in just fine. If I were to play one of these guys, and Joe and I, we've talked about it. Joe definitely had a Serpentfolk rolled up for a while. He was going to roll up a Mesmerist, you know, be Ka from the Jungle Book. That's probably the goal. I've just woken up from stasis and now it's time to kill all mammals and eat them and bring back the glory of my former empire. And you know, evil games can be fun too. Evil PCs need to be broke out every once in a while, shake it up a little bit. And I definitely personally would love GMing for a game like that where the whole party just kind of wakes up from stasis in the Darklands. Maybe they've rolled up Degenerate Serpentfolk and they've been guarding these sleeping elders who've now awoken to conquer the surface world, bring them a million races to their knees for the glory of the Serpentfolk Empire. But what do you guys think about this race? Would you play it? Would you allow your players, actually probably better question, to play something with that much RP in a Pathfinder game? Have you played Serpent Skull? Did you enjoy it? And do we want to see these guys come back maybe a little more balanced in Pathfinder 2nd Edition? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and again, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos. The next episode of the Forgotten Race Review, where we take another popular request, one of my favorite races that I've recently seen played, and we cover the Trox, drops next Monday. Hey, before we check out, real quick, Michael also wanted us to cover Serpent Stone in Pathfinder, and so we shall. In Pathfinder, Serpent Stone is a strange substance unique to the precursor alchemies of the ancient Serpentfolk, so again, those advanced Serpentfolk that are just waking up. Its ancient name has been lost to time, but modern explorers have dubbed it Serpent Stone after its Ophidian creators. Which means, hey, if you're playing an advanced Serpentfolk, you get to name it if your GM is nice, and if he's not, complain until he lets you. Actually, don't. That would be mean. Don't do that. Serpent Stone is exceptionally resilient, and all of it's magically treated. When properly worked and treated through eldritch means known only to ancient Serpentfolk wizards and sorcerers, again, you, Mr. PC, Serpentfolk can be programmed to emit sound and light in a variety of ways, shifting at predetermined times from color to color and tone to tone, from brightness equal to that of daylight to a dim shadowy glimmer like that of a candle. In addition, Serpent Stone can be said to radiate heat or cold, or produce illusory smoke, rolling forth thin streams of scented, incense-like fumes, which was designed to delight, enlighten, or otherwise inform Serpentfolk in the vicinity. These all function as major image with a caster level 18th, and you can definitely bring that in your Serpentfolk game, and it stands to reason that, at least at first, the bad guys, good guys, the things you're fighting, whatever they happen to be, probably don't understand what you're doing. Suddenly it just smells funny, and that tells all the degenerate Serpentfolk rangers that are out hunting humans with their bows to retreat or to attack, etc., etc. There's a lot of possibilities here, and I really like it.